Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Byrne from DBpsychology Services, known as DBpsychology across the social media. This morning, I'm going to talk about this week's blog, which is specific speech and language disorders. Now, what I'm going to talk about is not the disorder itself. I've outlined that in the blog, and I've also given milestones for parents to have a look at from kind of birth to around 5, 6-ish. So if you check those out, you can have a look and see what kind of milestones your child should be kind of reaching around those ages in terms of speech and language. Now, a word of caution about milestones: they're not set in stone. Kids vary, just like the rest of us. They vary in when they would reach something. So a child can get there earlier and a child can get there later, and it can have no significant effect on them at all. Now, what I'm going to talk about is how you as a parent can actually help your child improve their speech and language. My first point I want to make is that you should always make eye contact with your child when you're talking to them, right from birth. Remember to allow for a newborn baby that it takes a number of weeks for their eyesight to get the proper focus. So, hold them up close as possible and, make eye contact with them. Let them, so they can see your face. You also want to get the child's attention, let them, that they can see you, that you've gotten their attention, and they can, that they're not being distracted by other things. So, kids, they'll be distracted in an instant. So you want to make sure you get that attention. So making eye contact is vital, and making sure, you call their name, you have their attention, they're looking at you, and the focus is on the two of you when you're talking. Always try and use the correct terminology as well when you're talking about things. Right from the start, mommy, daddy, baby. Yes, children are going to start talking and they're going to use, the b, m, and d syllables. The mama, baba, dada. And that's okay. That's fine. But, when they start to master that, then we want to move on and start using, there's mommy, there's daddy. Oh, look, there's daddy. There's mummy, there's grandma, there's, whatever the name is that you have for that person. I'm called Nana. So I don't get called grandma. I get called Nana. Nanny. So, use those terms. You're talking about the fridge, you say fridge. You're talking about the dishwasher, you say dishwasher. You're talking about water, apple, whatever it is, you talk about it. Let's have dinner. Use that. Don't say din-dins or anything like that. Try and use the proper terminology in all things. And also the other thing would be to use gestures. So, point at things, point things out. Get the children used to, you pointing to the likes of, well, there's the fridge, or there's daddy, or, point to things and repeat it. Repeat, use the same gestures. Try and do that. Try and use the same words for the same things in a repetitive way. Just like anything else, we all learn the same way. We need repetition for it to sink in as adults. And I know people can say, well, I learn, visually, and, I could learn orally, or, there are different things like that, but we're not going down that road during this conversation. I'm just, talking about using gestures and the correct terminology to talk about things. And the repetition. Now, the next thing you can do with them is you can read to them. Okay, it's very important. Even from birth, I would suggest you start doing bedtime stories. It's a wonderful thing to do. It's a great way to get close to your children and your grandchildren. Or, if you're an aunt or uncle, it's a great way to get close to the kids, is to read them a story. Now, when you're reading the story, you're going to use age-appropriate books, of course. The younger they are, the more pictures they're likely to be and less words. So point things out in the books. You want to point them out and go, oh, look, there's Teddy. Oh, look, there's the tractor. Oh, look, there's, and point them out and use the same names, same words. And again, it's repetition. And again, you're gesturing because you're pointing to things. Name the toys. Okay, I've said this in the blog. Make sure that the kids, the children, the babies and the toddlers, and we're progressing on here up now. So we're talking about now more likely, once they get to their toys, their handling toys, kind of, 9, 12 months on, after birth, and they have their favourite toys, Teddy, whatever. Start naming the toys, start calling it a teddy bear. They have a truck, you call it the truck. You can call it a truck. You don't have to say, oh, well, that's a specific, brand of truck. Just call it the truck. The same with the train, the same with the car, the same with the doll. And then give the if they have a favourite teddy or a doll, or, you can give them a name. So Teddy can have a name, or the doll can have a name. And they can go on adventures. So this leads me to my next point is, the toys can go on adventures, okay? And you get them to start interacting with you and telling the story, using their imagination. And for you to, at the start, you're going to need to tell them the story of Teddy going on the adventure, or the doll going on the adventure, or the car going on the adventure, or whatever it is. They can go to visit grandma's house, or they could be going to the park, or something simple. Keep it simple. And then get them to start telling their story about Teddy's adventures. Okay, so it's a good way for them then to start talking about, you're encouraging them to speak, you're encouraging them to tell the story of Teddy going on an adventure, say, to grandma's house, or Teddy's adventures to the park. Now, I'm just using Teddy as an example. I think you get it. I think you get the idea that their favourite toy can have adventures and that they can tell the story. You'll start it off by saying, you'll tell them these stories, but eventually they will start to tell you the stories as well. Watching television shows. Okay, now again, kids shows, they're great. They can be great entertainment. They can be great for education. And you can use them for speech and language development. You're going to have to make the decision as to what, how much television your child watches. They would have to be age appropriate, of course. And the other thing I would say about television shows for children is make sure they're using the correct language. They're using correct language. They're not using any sort of funny names or Weird and Wonderful. I'm not going to mention the television program. It was out a number of years ago, but Weird and Wonderful language to describe things. That's not good. Okay. Make sure that the show is using, is speaking properly, that the language that is being heard is appropriate, and that the language that is being said is correct. Okay. That's very important. And you can sit, I know parents are going to go, oh no. We've all done it. We all have to sit and, watch the TV shows. But that's good because they're, you sing along. If the song's being played, you sing along with them. I'm not saying you have to do this every day. But, for you to sit with them, it's interaction time. It's a great way to interact with your child. It's a great way to spend time with your child. They love these television shows. You can have them on DVD. You watch them online nowadays. Just sit and sing half an hour, and watch the show and sing along with them. You sing along too. I think I can still remember all the words Barney sang. I know it's painful, but it's a way of getting, your child to develop speech and language. You need to get as many tools into that arsenal as you can. And this is just one way of doing it. Another way will be audiobooks. So, listening to an audiobook in the car if you're traveling. It doesn't even have to be on a long journey to and from school. You can start the audiobook and they can be listening to the audiobook on the way to school, and then you pick up where you stopped on the way back. Singing songs, again, great way. They're talking the language. You're singing. It's a great way. Kids love to sing. They love to perform. They love to entertain. And it's getting them to speak. The next thing I'd say is get them socializing. Get them out, get them mixing with other kids, do the play days, get other mums over, baby toddler groups, get other mums and dads over, and bring them into the house. You go to their house, have a coffee morning. You can have a chat. Kids are playing in front of you. They're socializing, and that's what they want. They need that we are social beings. We need to be sitting, talking to other people face to face. It's great. Okay, social media has its place. It can help with isolation and loneliness. It is a wonderful tool for that. But we do need social contact, and we do need to see the facial expressions of other people. We need that, that a connection emotionally, and we need it too when we're learning to speak, and we need it when we're learning a language. So getting them out socializing is very important. Joining the local library is another thing. You can pick up your books again. We're doing our story time, but they do story times for kids. A lot of the libraries now in Ireland have Saturday mornings where they will have a story. One of the librarians will tell a story. Again, it's for kids. The kids are socializing. You're sitting in a room. Generally the parents sit to the back, and the kids sit in front of them on the floor, and the librarian is telling the story. Great way to do from social interaction. Again, they're hearing the language, they're speaking the language. That's what it's all about. It's the repetition, hearing it and speaking it, and the correct terminology for people and for places and things. That's what they need to be hearing. Now, the last point I want to really make is have patience. The best thing you can do for any child, it doesn't matter if they have a specific speech and language disorder or not, is to have patience. When a child is learning to talk, it's going to take its time for it to formulate those words in its head and for it to speak out what it wants to say. And it's the same with anybody. Always step back, ask the question, and then have patience enough to listen for the answer, no matter how long it takes. Everybody has the right, no matter how old or how young they are, to express themselves. And for you to, to have, you really need to have that patience to sit back and allow them to express themselves. So again, we go back to what I said at the start: make eye contact, get their attention, ask your question or point to something, and then allow them the time they need to respond. Now, in terms of the specific speech and language disorder, check out the blog, check out the criteria, and don't panic. Okay, just because your child doesn't reach that milestone immediately upon their 1 year birthday or six months, or whatever they are, whatever age they are, don't panic about that. I've said this at the start. Kids will hit milestones a little bit earlier, a little bit later. The milestone charts are all about just the average, as they say. It's a guideline, always a guideline. So, don't worry about it. Okay? Now, when I say don't worry about it, you're the parent. Trust your gut instinct. Go to your GP. Go to the developmental checks. If you have any concerns, raise them at the developmental checks and with your GP. Okay? They will quickly refer you on to a speech and language therapist. They're wonderful people. They will put in place a program, and I talk about that in the blog, that they will put in place a program that will help your child, and you will, they will give you exercises that you can do at home for yourself. I've also given the criteria that the diagnostic manual that a psychologist would have, that as psychologists we would use to assess a child. Now, in terms of assessment, I just want to say in Ireland, there is an assessment of need. It is a legal obligation once the child was born after 2002 for the HSE to run that. Once you make your application, and you can pick it up at your local HSE branch, that you would make your application for an assessment of need, and they have 3 months in which to get that up and running for you. Things are supposed to run very, very smoothly. Don't get too that you can also, if you're not happy, get a second opinion. Always get a second opinion if you're not happy. And as parents, as I said, you should trust your gut instinct. So do check out this week's blog. It's at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices.com. And I'll see you all